For months, the populist progressive energy inside the Democratic Party has been concentrated in blue cities. But now that movement is testing something bigger. Can a Democratic socialist win over voters in one of America's most competitive swing states? Does the energy in New York, LA, D.C., and Denver translate in the Midwest? Progressive Democratic Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed of Michigan certainly thinks so. And in Wisconsin, Democratic Socialist Assemblywoman Francesca Hong is now leading the polls in the state's Democratic primary for governor. Assemblywoman Hong joins me now. It is great to see you this morning and to have you on. I want to start our conversation just digging in a little bit into your background, because it's different than the backgrounds of a lot of the politicians that we speak to. You're the child of Korean immigrants. At one point, you had to drop out of college to work, and you were sued last year over credit card debts that you've since paid off. But that's something that many Americans can actually relate to, but maybe not too many governors or lawmakers. So tell me a bit about how your personal upbringing has informed your politics.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Antonio, for having me. And being a service industry worker means that, I am a hustler, and I know what it means to work hard, like so many Wisconsinites across the state. And my lived experiences in the service industry as a restaurant owner and, 5 years now in the state legislature, I think it gives me an opportunity to connect with voters in many different ways.
Tell me about those connections, because as I've watched your campaign from afar, you're not just going out there and talking to Democrats. You are crossing through your state, trying to talk to more conservative residents in Wisconsin. And I'm curious how it goes when you connect with them and then they hear that word socialist, which in so many of our media ecosystems is, something that they're told to be very afraid of.
I love talking to everyone and anyone, literally sometimes stopping folks in the streets. And what we hear so often is that people are stressed, they're tired, and they're ready for change as opposed to this chaos. I think that when folks hear socialism, they may be taken aback, but I bring it back to potholes and the Packers and public education and, issues that have broad bipartisan support and broad bipartisan opposition, like data centers, and then support for our public schools and universal childcare, lowering working class people's taxes by taxing the wealthiest few and mega corporations. These are issues and conversations that I'm having with folks in every corner of our state.
I want to talk to you and dig in a bit more on data centers, because that's a huge issue, not just in Wisconsin, but around the country. And I know that there are some voters and some who are not Democrats considering you because of your stance on AI data centers. You've called for a moratorium on their construction. Your state already has dozens of them, though. And I'm wondering what you think you can really deliver for voters with a moratorium, and if there's any risk of Wisconsin losing out if construction continues all across the country.
These dozens of data centers across Wisconsin are exempt from sales and use tax, and the construction of more hyperscale AI data centers, the response has been that communities want community control, not NDAs and promises of jobs, but real concrete measures that will put regulations that preserve our natural resources, protect ratepayers from skyrocketing utility costs, and that we are thinking about our shared future for our kids, where there's clean water, lower costs, and taxpayers aren't on the hook for what could happen when these data centers are no longer in use.
I want to talk to you a bit about some of the debates and controversies that have also been a part of this race, because while we talked about socialism and sort of the labels coming from the right, the reality is that there are criticisms that have come on the left as well. You appeared on 2 controversial live streams, one with Hassan Piker, another with a guy called Mike from Pennsylvania. Former Democratic Wisconsin Elections Commissioner Ann Jacobs said of your appearances this: when you decide these are the sort of people you want to hang out with in order to raise money, you have made clear that you either 1, agree with them, or 2, can be bought, or 3, both. Fran Hong appears to be all. She is willing to sell out the Jews of Wisconsin for a few bucks. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond to that.
I condemn hatred, discrimination, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, any sort of dehumanizing of communities. Being on these streams, it's important that we get our message out in places where campaigns struggle to reach voters. Just because I am on a platform certainly does not mean that I endorse everything that has been said by either the hosts or other people who have gone on. And if candidates and elected officials who are speaking with more controversial hosts, if we are to be responsible for everything that they have ever said, I would point to the fact that Tom Tiffany, the Republican likely nominee, has been on a radio show that has called for the execution of the governor of Minnesota. So I think it's important to recognize that when we are campaigning in areas where folks may not have already heard our message, it's important to let them know that we are a campaign that is fighting for working class people, and it's important that folks are staying engaged on our elections here in Wisconsin.
I want to ask you about how Israel and Gaza have also reshaped this race. It's reshaped the Democratic Party all across the country. It's not just the case in Wisconsin. You have made very clear, you've said that you believe Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. And there's also been this debate in your state over an incident from 2023 in which you called the police twice to report an anti-Israel protest display of some kind on behalf of constituents who told you at that time that they believed that it was anti-Semitic. You've since apologized for doing that. Can you explain why?
I was unaware that this was an act of protest. I did not see the words ceasefire now, and I was responding to community members and my constituents that had expressed deep concern over that display. And so I was responding to people's fear and pain, and I always will choose to make sure that communities feel safe. And as a democratic socialist, it means that my values are rooted in democracy, fairness, and human rights. And whether it's here or across different parts of the country or across the world, it's important that we denounce genocide and call it for what it is, and vow to protect communities and ensure that everyone feels safe in practicing their faith.
With our final seconds here, can you just tell me a bit about how you plan to build on the legacy of Tony Evers in the state, someone that many Democrats still have immense affection for there, and maybe wondering sort of how your policies, your process may build on his?
We will carry forward the governor's passion for public education, ensuring that we are fully funding our public schools and public universities, that our governor has been forced to govern by defense, and Democrats now have an opportunity to win back the trifecta and ensure that we are delivering for Wisconsinites on healthcare, on public schools, on environmentalism. Our Wisconsin progressive roots run deep, and this is a state where so many progressive ideals and policies have come from, and we're ready to move those forward and deliver for Wisconsinites.
Francesca Hong, so good to have you on MS Now. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Antonia.